In the spirit of reconciliation, the new blurt acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today.
I can't take it anymore!
Good afternoon, good evening, good day, and good morning, Blurtsters, wherever you are around the world. You are listening to the Blurt.
You absolutely are listening to the new Blurt. You're with the Kexter at the moment. Wency will be with us in, 2 shakes of lambs. What's it? But we've got a great show tonight. Tonight it's going to be, actually, I should probably start from the start. If you've never listened to this show before and you've just stumbled upon us on the internet somewhere, I am the Kexter, and thus is Wency, who you will meet very, very soon. And today we're talking about a segment called On This Day. On This Day, self-explanatory. It's all about what happened on this day. It doesn't really matter how many years ago, but on this day. That's what it's about. Second segment tonight will be Do Yourself a Favour. That's all about favourite podcasts, where Wency and I speak about what we like about the favourite podcast we're listening to at the moment. I myself am listening to anywhere between, 20 to 50 at any one time. So I'll just have a bit of a look through there and see which ones I'll pick for tonight. But we've got some good ones, and Wency's always got some interesting ones. And to be honest with you, do yourself a favour is where we discovered Irrational Fear, although I did find out they've been going for 9 years. And as you may or may not know, we've had Dan Illich, who is the host of Irrational Fear, and also the mastermind behind the Billboard campaigns has been happening in Glasgow and around the world, as it were, i.e. New York. So Do Yourself a Favour is all about podcasts, and we all learn something. And then to top the show off, as it were, Chinese Takeaway, where we take something from China, i.e. it could be education, it could be industrial politics, it could be economics, it could be history of China from obviously years gone past, dynasties. There could be maybe a lost dynasty we might have found and done some research on, etc., etc. So Chinese Takeaway is something that we take away about China. And I will say just one more thing. Next week's show, we have a fantastic guest. His name is Dr. David Smith from the University of Sydney. He is a US political expert. And to be honest with you, I think he's actually a professor. But on the PEP podcast, which I am a massive listener to. And you can get that on, you can get it on YouTube channel, the PEP channel, and also PEP is Planet America. So if you listen to Planet America on Friday nights, you'll see Chaz Litigello and I think it's John Barron, and they do Planet America. Anyway, this is the podcast spin-off of that, and Dr. David Smith chats with Chaz Litigello. We have Dr. David Smith, and we are delighted to have him. Now, as I say, that will be next week. So tune in for that one. That would be absolutely fantastic. But tonight, something I like to do, and I do it most weeks, is introduce Wency.
Greetings, young sir. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm really good. No complaints of any kind at this stage.
Excellent.
It is early in the week though, but
yeah. My boss sent us a message this morning to the whole team saying, hey everybody, good morning. Is everyone pumped up? And I just went, I guess. as a joke. And then when he went, thanks for bringing the mood down. And I went, that was just a joke. And I went, yay, high five, everyone.
You should get them to listen to the podcast. That'll get them up.
Exactly. Yeah,
yes.
True.
Especially with some of the great guests we've been having lately. And even last week with Faddis, talking all about what's happening with the draft and all those sort of things. So it seems like quite a few people have been interested in that because we've had a few downloads of that podcast already. And it looks like, people are liking what we're doing, which is good. So We just have to keep getting better, my friend. That's what
Exactly.
it comes down to.
Yeah.
So-
Practice long enough, I'm sure we'll get there. We'll be in the big leagues.
Oh, mate, I'm reading Outliers, and I probably should have read it years ago, but Malcolm Gladwell. And, he's the guy that he didn't pen the phrase. It comes from Nietzsche. I think it comes from Nietzsche. Actually, that could be wrong. I'll backtrack. I don't think it came from Nietzsche. But the phrase 10,000 hours to be an expert in anything, Malcolm Gladwell sort of made it popular to say that. And but I don't believe he came up with the term. In fact, I know he didn't come up with the term. And what I'll do is I'll get the book next week, and then I'll just read the little excerpt from it, and it shows you exactly where that comes from. But anyway, what I wanted to say was we need 10,000 hours to be awesome. So basically, that's what it comes down to. But Outliers is really interesting because what it does is it tells you, because when I first started reading it, I thought it was going to explain to me outliers, i.e. why people are successful, how they got there, and why that sort of person was successful. And I mean, I suppose I thought he was going to talk about, maybe they were gifted or maybe they just worked a lot harder. And it's actually really, really interesting because it's far more than just that. And just to keep a very, very long story shortish, he was explaining that in the American hockey leagues, that say at the upper echelon of the league, the best players were born in January, February, and March. And if you look through the whole team, you won't see any players born after June.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yep. Have you frozen?
Yes, we're live. Yes. I heard you say January, February, and that's as far as I got.
Yes, I'm not sure what happened there. If someone is trying to stream outside, I'm going to kill them. But anyway, what I was saying was, January, February, March. So there was none after June, which meant that if you were born after June, no matter how good you were as a player, you still wouldn't have got into that team.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. As I say, it's been blowing my mind, absolutely blowing my mind. But anyway, I just thought that was really interesting. I thought I would share. Anything you would like to share?
Just on the 10,000 hours to get better.
Yes.
There's what we used to say to our kids when they were younger, was 10 yucks to a like. So whenever we gave them food, they had to try it 10 times before we said, okay, we give up trying to give you the greens or whatever vegetable it was. So, yeah. So I was just thinking, similar analogy. Got to keep trying.
Well, yeah. I mean, it sort of works in that. You're 100% correct. It's like, because for whatever reason, I don't know why it is, but humans seem to be 90-something% of them seem to be negative more than positive, and nothing is more stark representation of that is when you're telling your kid off when they're younger so many times during the day, and you're right. Every time you tell them off, you have to actually praise them at least 5 or 6 times, and you can understand if you don't do that, why they would probably grow up depressed. It would make sense.
Yeah, true. Yep. But, and we see that in the news cycle these days, that anything that's depressing gets our attention.
Yeah. Well, no, you're right. I mean, I find myself doing that, they call it doom scrolling. Yeah. I know. Yeah. And we don't want to bring that mood down. So,
No. Let's G it up a bit. Let's get it back up.
I agree. So what I think we'll do is we'll play this really, really upbeat, jaunty sting.
Mm-hmm.
On this day.
Or maybe not. But it doesn't really set the world on fire, you've got to say. So
no, but it may have back in the day in the 20s, whenever that came out.
On that day, it may have. You're correct.
May have.
Yes. It may have. Do you want to go? I'm more than happy if you want to go first.
Okay. All right. I will start off with some events that have happened on this day. 1799, Napoleon Bonaparte stages a coup and becomes the dictator of France.
Oh, that was a pretty heavy day.
Yeah. It only gets better from here.
Nice.
1980.
Nice.
Yeah, 1980, Saddam Hussein declares holy war on Iran.
Oh, bugger.
So I think that's when we first started seeing the bad side of Saddam, I guess.
I don't think there ever was a good side of Saddam.
True.
It's just the fact that it was just the fact that somehow, some way, he was keeping the country together. Not necessarily.
Yeah, somehow.
Yeah, not necessarily in a cohesive community,
or democratic or happy method.
No. But but they didn't have vigilante terrorists groups running around because Saddam had his army and going out killing those people. So
yes,
swings and roundabouts.
Yes, exactly. And of course that just was the beginning of things to come 10 years later and 20 years beyond that. So another one, 1984, Wes Craven's horror film A Nightmare on Elm Street premieres in the US.
Oh, I think we've got one of the viewers here for that one. Just hold on.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
Oh, yes.
Enjoying it.
That would have been from the opening scene, I'm sure. Not that I've ever seen those, but
I think it was actually. To be honest with you, I think it was just someone went shopping and hadn't been shopping since the pandemic and couldn't believe the prices. But
yeah. Or the toilet rolls had run out again.
Yes, I've heard that scream in the supermarket on that one, definitely. So I've got one here. US under nuclear attack. So we're doing some wonderful upbeat ones today. November 9th, obviously today, 1979, NORAD notified the National Security Advisor that the Soviet Union had launched 250 ballistic missiles towards the US, stating that a decision to retaliate would need to be made by the US president within 3 to 7 minutes. Now, that's really been put on the spot.
Yeah, who was the president at the time?
What have we got? 1979. Is it Carter? I have to look that one up. Where's Dr. David Smith when you need him?
Yeah, exactly. We can ask him next week.
Yeah, we will. NORAD computers then placed the number of incoming missiles at 2,200. Strategic Air Command was notified nuclear bombers prepared for takeoff. However, a few minutes later, satellite and radar systems determined that the attack was a false alarm. A training scenario had accidentally been loaded into an operational computer. That's just... Oh my God! I don't have words for that. Seriously.
No, same. I've got one more.
Keep going.
Yeah, I'm glad it didn't happen. It wasn't real. I've got one more event, and then once we're ready, we'll go to births and deaths and stuff like that. But on this day, 1 year ago, drug makers BioNTech and Pfizer announced their COVID-19 vaccine to be over 90% effective in their first results of their phase 3 trial. So, that study was released a year ago.
Well, that is particularly good. That you're just talking about Pfizer, yeah?
Just Pfizer, yes.
Yeah. Apparently now there's information around to say that it's sort of more like 80 rather than 90.
Yeah.
But
mind you, that was only a sample of 44,000, and now we've had millions and millions of samples.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No, that is true. But it was interesting actually talking about that. I was listening today. They were saying about double doses, and people like me who've had the AZ will need to have a Pfizer booster.
Yes.
And I think that'll probably happen January, February next year. But I must admit, I like you, I would prefer to see people in Africa. I think they're like 8%, and I mean the whole continent. is 8% jabbed. So, and that's only on a first dose, I believe.
Yeah,
it's pretty bad.
It's pretty low, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think
it's pretty bad.
Rich countries should now be focusing on them, because otherwise this thing won't go away.
No, that's 100% correct. That is 100% correct. But as I think I've alluded to before, because of the fact that they, warp speeded this this vaccine, they didn't really get as much vaccine as they actually needed for it to be completely effective as such, and hence why we need the boosters. But I was listening today to a epidemiologist and Tony Blakely from New Zealand. I think he's at Melbourne University. But anyway, he was saying that. Excuse me, sorry. They're not sure which way they're going to go boosters wise going forwards. There's lots of different options they can take, and to be honest with you, there's so many things happening. We just don't know the answer at the moment.
Yeah,
but yeah. So you're right. It was a very good thing for all of us. So,
exactly.
But this wasn't a particularly good thing for anyone, and especially not Paul McCartney.
Oh.
Paul McCartney died in a car accident in November. Well, today, 1966.
Paul McCartney.
Yeah, I've got to keep reading. In 1969, using clues found in Beatles songs and album covers, a Detroit disc jockey and his radio audience determined that Paul McCartney died on November the 9th, 66 in a car accident. The rumour claimed that McCartney, after an argument with his bandmates, sped off his car, crashed, and was decapitated. The remaining Beatles then substituted him with an orphan they had trained to impersonate him. Feeling guilty about their actions, they left clues in their songs and album covers. I bet this person who wrote this, or believe this, is an anti-vaxxer as well.
Yeah, probably. And the Earth is flat. Yeah,
absolutely, a flat earther for sure. The Volkswagen license plate was 28IF, which would have been McCartney's age. IF, he had still been alive. IF, if he had still been alive. Yeah. Also, the left-handed McCartney holds a cigarette in his right hand, indicating it was imposter into the photo. The rumours were wrong, of course. The book, Turn Me On, Dead Man, The Beatles, and The Paul is Dead hoax documents the hoax. So there you go.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
I thought you were serious. I was thinking, hang on, that can't be right, because I'm sure he's still alive.
He's about 107. No, he's still going around to Dave Grohl's place and teaching his daughter how to play Lady and Madonna on the piano. So no, he's still going.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. You got some?
I do, but before I do, I just want to give a big shout out to Sarah, who has given us a nice little high five or hello to us via the Facebooks. And so I hope you're enjoying your soccer training there, Sarah.
Yes, absolutely. Welcome, Sarah. Lovely to have you on board.
Yes. So what else do I have? Births. I have Gail Borden, an American manufacturer and inventor of condensed milk. He was born in 1801 in New York, and I put him in because I love condensed milk, so I had to include him.
Yeah, I was terrible with condensed milk when I was a kid. Do you remember it used to be in the tube?
Yes. Oh, they still make them in tubes.
Oh, do they? Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I'm glad I'm not buying that stuff. I wouldn't have any teeth.
Diabetes. You would have contracted diabetes by now or something else.
I used to go along those aisles, and I would get a tube, and I would open that baby, and and I'd put that back, and I might get another one.
Yeah,
and I might do the same thing.
Sorry, Ness, and I may have just started something with Kexter here.
No, she knows how much I love condensed milk. If there's they know if they ever make anything with condensed milk, if they leave it in the fridge, it's gone.
Yep, it's gone. Yeah, it's got multiple uses. It's great in Vietnamese coffee.
Yes,
hot or cold.
Yeah.
Growing up in Chile, and here, Mum would boil the tins of condensed milk, and it turns into caramel.
Yes,
and that I could literally eat a whole can full in one sitting. So
just give me a bath of that. That's awesome. I'll just eat my way through the bath. Oh yeah, no, I'm with you.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Now I'm just salivating.
Well, you won't be salivating after this, I tell you. Jack
No?
the Ripper.
Oh.
Yes. I brought the tone down slightly. Jack the Ripper.
Just a bit.
In 1888, the last known murder by Jack the Ripper is committed. For 3 months, he had murdered and mutilated prostitutes in London's East End. He was never caught. Now, I'll tell you a story about Jack the Ripper. A really good mate of mine who I still know, but I don't really talk to so much. You lose touch with these people, especially when you've travelled a bit, et cetera, around the world, whatever. Anyway, he lived in the I can't remember. I really should remember the street, but I can't remember what it is. He lived in the street that Jack the Ripper was meant to have committed his crimes. Artillery Passage, that's what it's called. It just came to me then.
It was all in the one street where he committed all those.
Yeah, I believe it was.
Oh, right. Okay.
I believe it was the same place, but I would have to come back with information on that. But what was really funny is what they did in London is, they have all these different tours because, it's so old and there's so many great things to, check out, etc. So they have these ghost tours, whatever. Anyway, they have a Jack the Ripper tour. And what my mates used to do, because they're terrible people, is they would all put these Halloween masks on, pretty scary ones, and they would hide just behind the door. And it's a really small door because London is all compact, etc. So anyway, they'd all hide behind the door. And as the guys go, oh, yes, and just down here is the Artillery Passage. This is where Jack the Ripper used to mutilate and whatever the prostitutes, blah, blah, blah. Just be careful when you walk there. And so they'll be going on about it, with the tour. And just as they get to the door, my mates all just jump straight out. And you have never seen faces whiter than these people. And, oh, my God, the sounds that they got was bet. Oh, my God. They were, that's it. And as I say, they were terrible people. They would
have to carry some defibrillators because I would have had a heart attack.
Oh, look, absolutely. And it was scary because Artillery Passage doesn't have a lot of lights. Even now, they didn't have a lot of lights.
Oh, really?
Mind you, I am talking 20 years ago, or 26 years ago, something like that. Anyway, they didn't have a lot of lights. And so these people are pretty much really in pitch darkness down a street that they know is notorious for these horrible crimes. And then these idiots jump out at it. Oh, seriously.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, there you go.
I've got another one.
Yeah, all right. You do the last one, and then I'll crack on with the next one.
Okay. Carl Sagan was born on this day in 1934. He's a famous American astronomer, good mate of ours on the show.
Is he still alive?
No, he passed away in 1996. At which point...
how old was he, Carl Sagan?
So 34 to 96, that makes it...
62.
62, yeah.
Geez, he was pretty young then, eh?
Yeah, very young. Can't remember what he died of, though. But yeah, he's very famous for Cosmos theories and just popularizing astronomy and science and all that stuff. So yeah,
he had one of those big sort of deep sort of voices, didn't he, Carl?
Yeah, it was a bit velvety, I guess. Is that what you call it? You could just easily listen to him. Just
it had a sort of a resonance about it.
Space-like.
Almost musical. Talking about almost musical. You're listening to The New Blood with Wency and the Kegstar. Next up, do yourself a favour. As we had alluded to at the start of the show, Do Yourself a Favour is all about our favourite podcasts. And what I'm going to do is just give you a couple tonight. I'm just going to give you a couple of snippets of some that I'm listening to at the moment. Now, I did talk to you about the Pet podcast at the start of the show, and I mentioned Dr. David Smith will be on the show next week because we will be doing Party in the USA. If you've ever joined us before, that is our US politics segment. So what I thought I'd do is just play you a little bit of their podcast from from last week, just to give you a little bit of a taster of what their sort of podcast is all about. Just a couple of minutes. So just indulge me here.
Yep.
Always got a good start, late start. Sort of bounces out.
Yeah.
But and then he starts with "Let's get Pepe," and this is what he said on the show last week.
Or $1 million. Now, what this would actually be doing would potentially be saving the US government money, because
we're listening
entirely
to Dr. David Smith at the moment.
If this actually went all the way through the courts could award damages that are higher than that. And if they award damages to one family, other families are not going to have an incentive to settle. So this could actually be, the typical kind of calculation the Justice Department makes in terms of saving the government money. Also, I mean, if this went to court, this would not be so much about the Biden administration. This would be about the ramifications.
On Quintal, you don't want them paying the lights.
We might as well say bye-bye to you, Dr. Dave.
I just want to mention that on November 18th, I will be on another podcast.
November 16th. November 16th.
You're cheating.
I'm going to be on the Blurt. So keep an eye out for that. You can visit the New Blurt's Substack page with Weensy and the Kegster.
That's us.
I know that's like Triple M.
I was going to say, yeah.
But they are podcasts much like our own.
So they're like us, except for one of them's called the Kegster. I think we need to have nicknames. Okay, you're obviously the doctor.
So that is.
So what does that make Chaz? The stirrer.
Sorry, what was that?
What does that make Chaz? What's his nickname? The stirrer?
Yeah, well, I don't know, but it was funny. Dr. David, David always does about an hour or so, and then he's always got, I think he's tutoring someone, or he's always got someone to go. I don't know exactly where. He's a very busy man. We're very lucky to get him. But Chaz he lives through this stuff. So afterwards, he did a segment, Chaz Unleashed. And
sounds very much like a Triple M segment.
It did. It very much did. But no, it was a very good segment. He was talking about many, many things. So, but the thing with the Pepcog podcast, try saying that 6 times fast. Anyway, is that you can probably, well, you can't tell, but this particular one goes for 2 hours and 17 minutes. So they're not,
that's a long one.
It is very long, but usually they go about at least an hour and a half.
Wow.
So that's still long, but this one's quite a long one. So,
and he goes for about an hour on that one, doesn't he? That just ranting or talking about whatever it was. I did hear that.
Chaz.
Yeah,
Chaz. Chaz does. Hear that episode. At the end. Yeah, by himself he does. Yeah, he does at the end. Now this is another one called The Transit Zone, and this is by Margot Kingston and Peter Clark, and both are really well-known journalists. And this is a great little podcast, and Mark Kelly put me onto this one, who was a guest on our show a few weeks ago. And as you know, he's been cracking on with the Keep Tony Out campaign, which is all over Twitter, which is really, really good.
Yes. And it's not just Tony, but yes, it's a lot of these politicians who say one thing but do the opposite in Parliament.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a classic example. So this particular interview is with Kylie Tink, who is trying to be independent candidate for North Sydney. This particular interview actually got me slightly annoyed, mainly because Kylie Tink has voted for the Liberal Party she voted for ScoMo last time, and it's taken her until he's broken nearly every promise, has done absolutely nothing for sexual harassment in Parliament House, done nothing for climate change at all, and basically, and won't create a federal ICAC because they know how much they'll get done for the amount of corruption they're doing. So it took that amount for Kylie to run as an independent. Now,
Wow.
I know that's slightly cynical of me, but I'm glad that she is running, and it's very good. But the person she's running against is Trent Zimmerman. And
wow.
Trent Zimmerman's not a bad guy. But as she articulates in this podcast, this particular podcast, he has voted on the same lines as Barnaby Joyce on every single issue.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's not in good company there, that's for sure.
No. So that is why I'll just play a minute or two. No, I won't. I'll try that again. That is why. Why is that happening? It didn't happen before. Why is that happening now?
This is what happens when we go live.
Sorry.
Technology doesn't always work when we need it.
Yes, I know. It's just now. This should be all right. Hopefully. Here we go. It's coming. Oh, I don't know. Oh, come on.
Or is it?
Seriously.
Or is it?
Oh, I think it may. It may. Oh, yes. Here it comes. It's only taking forever. That's fantastic. Thank you for that. Here we go. I think it's coming.
Well, it'll be quicker than the carbon emissions from ScoMo and his policies.
Transit zone.
Believe it or not, under the hood of this ordinary-looking car.
And in time where, and then bringing that information back to people that need to know. From a personal level, it's much bigger than I expected. When I said yes to North Sydney's independent, I kind of went, I'm putting my hand up to be a candidate in the federal seat of North Sydney in an election that's yet to be called. It'll be okay. The kids thought it was a great adventure, not surprised at all, because this is what mum always does, sees something that needs fixing and then I just throw myself into it. I guess because I am the first independent in what is actually becoming.
So that just gives you a little bit of a taste. But the transit zone at the moment has got it's a bit of a theme actually. They've had quite a few independent candidates. They've had Zali Steggall. They've spoken to Sophie Scomps with Mark Kelly a few weeks ago, and now they're speaking to this one. So they're going through all of the independent candidates that are representing the, as it were, the blue electorates. And this is what I find interesting, and I said this to Mark at the time when we had him on the show, was that it's interesting that the independents are all going for the Liberal seats, not the Labor seats. Yeah,
it's interesting, isn't it?
It is interesting, and I think it tells you a story. Not necessarily that Labor are the be-all and end-all, but if you want to actually negotiate a climate change agreement going forwards, or anything of any
importance that is that the nation wants.
Pretty much. You need to deal with the Labor Party, because the Liberal Party, their right wingers just stop everything. And it's going to be scary when, as they were saying before, it's going to be scary if the United Australia Party, how on God's earth the United Australia Party would get representatives into the Parliament, I do not know. But if that happens, I still don't know how Hanson's there, but So.
I know. I thought she disappeared for a long time.
So did
until she made a comeback.
Yeah, I know. Seriously. I must admit, I really didn't like Jacky Lambie for the longest of times, but the longer she's been there, the more I like her. I wouldn't say I really, really like her, because at times she's really annoying on some of the decisions she makes. But I will say she is not a Hanson. So
no, she can be abrasive in the way she delivers her message. I think, in my eyes.
Yep, definitely.
Her intentions are mostly good.
Yep.
And I believe she does listen to the people of her electorate.
She definitely does. Yeah.
So I'm the same as you. There was a long time there where I just went, oh, not her again. But she's I'm liking her a bit more these days over the last couple of years.
She's learnt a lot from when she lost her seat because of her nationality, and she had to resign and get back in. And I mean, kudos to her. She had to mortgage her house, etc.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because she doesn't have anyone backing her because she's not with Clive anymore. Clive took her for a ride.
That's right.
Which she now knows. As I say, she's learnt a lot on the fly. So it was
and the hard way.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, enough out of me. What you got?
Oh, that's right. We're on podcasts.
Yes, we are.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, no, we're not just chatting.
No. I got sidetracked. I thought we'd anyway.
That's absolutely fine. No problem.
My first one was brought to my attention by my oldest child, who listens to these guys. They're called Sci Guys, as in science guys. They're a trio from England. It's one bloke called Corey who talks about scientific studies that he's particularly interested in, usually strange ones. And he's got two other friends who join him on his podcast/vodcast. One of them's named Jamp, and Luke is the other guy. And they're basically the comedic relief and try to debunk wherever they can, or ask questions, or just think of anything that's nonsense of the topics that Corey brings up. Some of their topics are things like the science of gene editing and treating blindness, the shocking science of boredom, where they talk about, is boredom a disease or a symptom, the science of uterus transplants and the Danish girl. So they've got lots of episodes to catch up on. They usually run on average, I reckon, about an hour.
Wow, so they're pretty long. They're pretty detailed.
Yeah, they can be pretty long. I've seen a few short ones about 44 minutes. But yeah, some of them can go as long as 90.
Sorry, mate. All 90. Wow. Would you recommend them for kids?
Yeah, I don't. The few that I've listened to, they're not. They don't swear, or there's no bad topics that they talk. It's just a bit like what we do. They just banter about the studies that Corey's come up with for that week, and they just discuss it in detail. Going off on tangents every now and then, things like that. But yeah, it was an interesting podcast. Definitely liked it.
And your kids got you onto that one?
Yeah. So they'd heard about it, and they've been listening to a few. So I went, okay.
Nice.
And he's a teenager, so 16, 15, 16, nearly 16.
Yeah,
so,
no, nice. We'll get that in the show notes for sure.
Definitely. And the other one I've been listening to this week is called Hidden Brain. The host, Shankar Vedantam, uses science and storytelling to reveal the unconscious patterns that drive human behavior, shape our choices, and direct our relationships. Some of the topics he talked.
What was that one called? Sorry.
Hidden Brain.
Oh, so right. That's the name of the podcast, Hidden Brain.
The podcast, yeah. So they'll talk about things about being kind to yourself. They'll have psychologists on the show, talking about how the brain works sometimes. They've had organizational psychologists on a couple of his episodes. So all sorts of stuff. They talk about climate change in some episodes. So a bit of everything. So gets you thinking. Interesting.
Well, we'll definitely get that in the show notes for sure. And I'll definitely get the podcast in as well. So they sound really, really cool. It looks like I'm going to have to get another couple on my ever expanding list. I tell you,
I think so.
I've got two podcatchers, and they're both getting full. It's ridiculous. So
you're just going to run out of waking hours to listen to these things.
Yeah, I know.
You'll be listening to it subliminally in your sleep one of these days.
Yes, probably true. Probably true. But I've got to admit, though, I've learned an amazing amount from so many of them. Classic example of the ones that you've been talking about. I mean, there's another one I've listened to a few times called Science Friction, and it's an ABC one, and that's really, really good as well. But we'll definitely have a look at the Sci Guys for sure, and Hidden Brain. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
What the other thing I want to say, Sarah came back. She said the famous quote from Sagan is a favourite of mine: "Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence."
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's a great quote. I don't understand it at all. Do you want to explain that to me?
I guess it means that without having any concrete evidence, you can't prove that it doesn't exist.
Yes, gotcha. Yeah. No. Yep. No, I think you've translated that beautifully.
Okay, good.
That sounds almost Keganese, so I think I can understand that. That's good. That's cool.
I hope I interpreted that correctly, Sarah. So let us know in the show notes or after the show.
Absolutely, all good. Anyway, I'm getting a bit peckish. I don't know about you.
Yeah, me too.
Like Chinese. I like Chinese.
Welcome to Chinese Takeaway.
I've got an interesting one. I mean, we said at the start of the show that Chinese Takeaway is all about, taking something different away about China. And, we talk about the histories and these different things. And many times you've spoken history, you've spoken science, etc. And I've spoken industrial economics, whatever. This particular time, what I'm going to just talk about is the coronavirus death toll is curiously low, and they're asking, can we believe the numbers in China? And it's pretty amazing actually, because some might question whether such an extraordinary figure can be trusted, but many experts told the ABC the low death rate is plausible. Now, I'll tell you a couple of things about that. So I just want to get down to, here we go. So people taking part in international travel are likely to be younger and healthier than most at risk of severe disease. Case fatality rates vary greatly with age, explained Professor Ben Cowling, an infectious diseases expert, University of Hong Kong. If there were 1,000 cases of children or young adults, you wouldn't expect any deaths. So it's interesting because they're saying here, early intervention or something intrinsically suspicious. So lots of people are just saying that the deaths are so small in 2021 compared to what happened in 2020. So, and considering that we're talking about a country that's got, I think, 1.4 billion people?
Something like that, yeah.
I think that's right. So I'll just give you a little bit of an example here. So I'm just trying to find, so nearly all the recorded deaths on the Chinese government tally occurred before April 17, 2020, a day when China's National Health Commission revised the death toll up to the account for earlier cases that had not initially been included. Now, what's really, really interesting about this is in 18 months since, more than 15,000 cases, if you like, have been recorded in China, and only 4 people have died, according to National Health Commission. This is a country of 1.4 billion people.
That's not even 0.1% cases of the population.
Mate, if the figures are accurate, that means China has a case fatality ratio for the past 18 months of 0.016%, 12 times better than Singapore and 62 times better than Australia's rate.
Wow. That's amazing. I can see why people can't believe those figures considering how populous that country is. Do they explain as to why their rates are so low?
Well, I don't know, but I have seen pictures of how they do quarantine to how we do quarantine.
Yeah.
And theirs is slightly more aggressive.
Yes. There's no questions asked, are there?
No, none whatsoever.
Quarantine? All right, we're going to bang this door with just nail it.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Can't get out.
Shut. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Get those protesters whinging over there. Nah, not going to happen.
No, doesn't happen.
Not going to happen at all. So yeah, so I did. I found it just blew my mind. I was just like, that is crazy. I still can't get my mind across it. 1.4 billion people.
Yeah.
And they're saying there's only 4 deaths.
And I've heard that their international borders are still shut anyway, so they're not getting many people coming in.
Yes.
And so that's also a contributing factor.
Yes, you are 100% correct. I did want to mention that, which was the cost of China's apparent success. The Chinese government zero tolerance policy to the virus appears to be hugely popular domestically. Sounds like they'd be friends with Western Australia.
Shut the border!
There has been little public pushback against the continuous border closures and quarantine periods of up to 21 days, even though the restrictions are unlikely to be relaxed anytime soon. So it says here, senior officials describe the battle against COVID-19 as a choice between humans eliminating a virus of being swallowed by a virus. I think the messaging and propaganda of China has been so strong on the need for strict measures, said Professor Cowling. It'll be difficult for them to change that message when they finally do open up again. Sounds like Western Australia.
Yeah. But also, not just China, but Asian countries will wear masks and they don't complain about it when people are sick. And so that would be helping too.
Yeah, there's absolutely no doubt about that. And it's really interesting that you say that, because I remember before we actually went into the pandemic in 2020, obviously we're still in the pandemic, but I'm talking about lockdown and all the rest of it. Excuse me, we're nowhere near out of it. But what I do remember is there was many different Asian nationalities that were still going to international students, were still going to the universities, et cetera, and many of them were wearing masks all the time. And in my mind, this is way before we sort of knew about things. I was like, why are they always wearing masks? I don't get it. I don't understand why they're wearing masks. And what I do get now is that SARS-CoV-2, the swine flu, if you like, was so bad in China and some of those Asian countries that they decided that they're going to wear masks pretty much all the time. I think that's sort of where it sort of comes from. And then within probably a month or two of me seeing that and sort of commenting on it in my own head or whatever the situation, we were wearing masks and saying that's what we should be doing, and we are doing it all the time now. So interesting.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Interesting.
All right, over to me by the sounds of it.
It is, my friend. That's all I got.
Speaking of,
that'll be in the show notes. So if anyone wants to read that article, all good.
Perfect.
Oh, just 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Sorry. That will be in the show notes of Wency's brilliant show notes, and we want to get those show notes even better in the future, and we will get captions in there so that people that don't have the fortunate to be able to hear the show, they can actually read the show if they have absolutely.
We are working on that technology, so it's coming soon.
We are,
yes. Okay, so speaking of contemporary things, like you said earlier, I often go back in the past. This time, the topic du jour, as they say, topic of the day, is COP26 and climate change and the like. We complained here in Australia that ScoMo wasn't going to go to Glasgow for the summit. Eventually he caved in and he went, all right, if I must, tail between his legs. So he ended up going. China's leader, Xi Jinping, didn't go to Glasgow. And there was a belief or thought that that was going to be a bad thing because they are the biggest fossil fuel emitters of greenhouse gases of the world. But what they've done over the past year or so, they've already started making pledges and changing their direction with fossil fuels. So they've already started to shut down thousands of coal mines within China. Yeah, and they've also committed to...
I think the crowd like that.
They did. I'll give it a 10 out of 10, that one. Well, actually 9 out of 10. Until they shut them all down, then they can get a 10.
They are shutting them down, but they're also opening new ones up.
Yes, I will get to that in a second as to why they're doing that. They're committing to stop coal financing abroad, so not using any bank loans from other countries or anything that involves fossil fuels. But over the last few months, they had starting having electricity shortages across the nation because I think they've closed the coal mines too quickly. And so they've had to reopen some, not all of them. So they've only opened up some of the coal mines to be able to
service the people.
Yeah, well, winter's coming.
Yes.
Not Game of Thrones, but winter. No. Real winter.
Yeah.
That's coming. So to look after the people, they need it. Oh, yeah. Unlike here, we could probably live without it, heating and stuff like that. But yeah, not when it's freezing, literally freezing cold over there.
No, down south in Tassie, it gets pretty bloody cold.
Tasmania, where's that? Well, who's Tasmania? The forgotten child. Sorry, Tasmanian. It's a joke. We love yous. Yeah, it does get cold.
Both of you.
Yes. So even though they haven't turned up to COP, they are still making inroads into reducing their fossil fuel footprint. They started this journey about 10 years ago, where about 70% of their total energy consumption in 2009 was from fossil fuel. It's now down to 57% as of last year. So they're already reducing their footprint. So even though they went there, I'm not terribly concerned because they are showing to the world that they are doing something, as opposed to our country where we're committed to nothing. Exactly.
Apparently, we are just going to magically get to 2050 by doing 4/5 of fuck all.
Yep, exactly.
And
I saw a graph the other day where if we actually started reducing our footprint now, the graph would go down quickly until we get to our goal. And so if you take the area underneath, that's a small area. But if we take the approach of the government where they're going, let's plateau for a long time, when this sudden technology that turns up that will save the world, when that goes down, that might be a steep decline. But in the preceding 10, 15, 20 years, you've had all this area of emissions that's just
fossil,
that's just screwed up our world. Yeah. So they're just seeing it in such a wrong method or wrong view.
It's
disgusting.
It is totally disgraceful. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And it is absolutely shocking. And the worst part about that is that we've already got the technology. I mean, Saul Griffiths has talked about it enough times. Is it Mark Cannon-Brookes? Is it Mark?
Yes, Mike Cannon-Brookes.
Mike Cannon-Brookes, from Atlassian. He's spoken about it so many times. If you don't know who Mike Cannon-Brookes is from Atlassian, he's the CEO, one of the richest men in Australia, I believe, who actually does care about climate change. And not only that, has a clue about it.
Yeah.
He's all over the renewable solutions, all the rest of it, like Saul Griffiths is, who I'm going to try my damnedest to see if we can get him on the show. In Green, they've done that because he's just he's a fantastic person. Oh, actually, talking about that, in a couple of weeks' time, we have a representative from Australia Institute. And I would tell you the lady's name right now, but I can't remember it, and I would need to get the show notes. But I might put it in the show notes at the end of this show. But that's coming up in a few weeks' time.
Was it?
Sorry,
was it Hannah?
I think it's Hannah. I need to just double check that. But she is very much learned research fellow for the Australian Institute, and she's written some really good articles on climate change, so she will be magnificent to have on the show. Give us a little bit of gravitas, no doubt about it. So we'll have to smarten ourselves up.
Yeah, I'll have to do a lot of research on that one because she's quite knowledgeable, isn't she?
Just slightly. We're dealing with the big fish, so we've got to know how to swim with them.
Exactly.
So, that will be cool. That'd be really cool. And you had an announcement at the end of the show, I believe.
I did. I just wanted to remind everyone again of Dr. David Smith from the University of Sydney, who is going to be on our show next week. So please tune in. You'll learn heaps. I'm sure I will. And we are going to have fun with discussing all things political in the US.
Well, absolutely, because I don't know how long David will be with us for. I've said, look, totally up to you if you want to be with us for.
Is he sick or something?
No.
I thought you were bringing the show down a bit.
No, I'm not bringing the show down. So exactly as when she said, Dr. David Smith will be on next week. It'll be a fantastic show. November the 16th, 8 p.m. onwards, we'll be live again. So join us. It'll be fantastic. Wency, you got anything to say?
7 p.m. Brisbane time. And other than that,
it will be.
Good night, Mr. Kegster.